All you beautiful people out there, what is going on? This is your friend Brady coming at you fast with another Paragon Beast Builds video, and today we're going to be looking at Iggy and Scorch, the inseparable pair. These guys are pretty crazy, pretty wacky, and I want to start off by asking you guys a question instead. We're going to do a little bit different. Do you ever feel like no matter what you do, there's always going to be somebody who doesn't like it? That is always the case. That is the answer to that question. That's always going to be the case. I'm going to give you guys a little example. These videos, not everybody's going to like these builds. Not everybody's going to use these builds. Not everybody's going to think these builds are good. That is a matter of your opinion. If you don't want to use this build, don't use this build. You don't need to. I'm not saying, and I feel like a lot of people take me wrong when I say this and make these videos. I'm not saying that this build, that this deck, is the best, flat out best way to build the character that I'm talking about. Because it might not be. And the reason is because there's so many different ways to build characters depending on your play style. I just like sharing a deck that I have stuck with per character that has been pretty damn useful in utilizing the character's abilities to their highest potential and in getting good games. Every single time I build a deck for these characters that I show off, I make sure that I can go a great, flawless game, just play a great game in general with the characters consistently. And with Iggy, the last 3 games I played, I went 14-1, 12-1, and 19-0 against gold and platinum players. So it is a pretty decent deck, if I had to say so myself. Obviously, if you're diamond, you already know what you're doing since you're already in diamond. You're not going to be watching my videos. And for those that need help, they enjoy my videos. So if you don't like the deck, you don't have to say, oh, you're wrong, oh, that's stupid, oh, whatever. I enjoy your guys' feedback. I love seeing different comments like, oh, but I build them this way. And I'm like, good for you. That's amazing. That works too. You know, especially on like my Kalari video, for example, I got roasted a bit because people were like, that's not how you build Kalari, or that's a pretty good starter deck, but that's not what I'm looking for, or whatever. And I am going back and changing those videos, by the way. But there are multiple ways to build the same character, and it just all depends on how you want to play them. So for those who are absolutely lost with these characters, I make these videos to help you guys out. So with that long-ass, stupid-ass intro out of the way, let's get on into the video. Profile, decks, new Iggy and Scorch, and let's check this shit out. So Iggy and Scorch are actually Corruption and Fury, but we're not going to be using any Fury cards nor Corruption cards in this deck. And I will show you guys why just in a second while I'm explaining this deck. So you do want to build, of course, your prime card. You want more energy damage, you want that damage bonus, and you want more damage for structures because Iggy is a caster like Gideon or Gadget. Iggy is very good at pushing lanes, not too good at fighting, but pretty damn good at pushing lanes and supporting others in a team fight, especially with those harassing turrets. So you do want to put in Archmagus. I always like having a Harvester key and a Scout's Ward just in case, because sometimes I solo queue and people don't pick up a Harvester key when they're supposed to. Some people don't pick up a Scout's Ward, so I just fill in the blanks. Excuse me, I had a burp there. I had to hold it in as well. So, next, equipment. So, you're going to start off with the Health Pot, Mana Pot, and a Scout's Ward. Typically, if you're going to be in your own lane, if you're supporting somebody and they have a ward, then maybe use a Harvester key, but Iggy is very good at mid laning, so we're going to assume that that's where we're going to put him for the sake of this video. So we're going to go with the Scout's Ward. Again, all of these cards will be in the description and in order, so you guys can go and check that out. Now, the first thing I like to build with Iggy is actually the, the Wellspring Staff right here. Notice I haven't linked any items with it. I personally don't really like linking cards to my equipment items just because I build this deck situationally. I do have a go-to method of building this deck, but depending on the situation, I might change it up a bit, which is why I don't link my cards unless it's 100% of the time going to happen. Like with Eldermage Amulet, I'm always going to put in 3 greater healths no matter what. But with Wellspring Staff, I usually put in 1 regular mana and 2 casts. And that's how I start off with my first 6 points. Like I always say, you want to go with 2-point cards for your first upgrade at least. Then the next upgrade that I like to do after putting in a little bit of damage into the Wellspring Staff and a little bit of mana is actually going tanky. Now, why do you go tanky with Iggy? And The reason being is because Iggy's all about damage over time. The flame turrets, the passive where they burn damage after shooting out the circle or the E and then lighting it on fire. The ult, lighting them on fire, dealing 4 pings of damage over time. It's all about damage over time, and it's all about survivability with Iggy. The longer you can stay in a fight, the longer damage you will do. So if you can out-tank the enemy, you can out-damage the enemy, so to speak, because they're going to consistently be under your turrets when you shoot them out. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about or you want to see an illustration, you guys can check out my guide video on Iggy and see how I actually play with him and how to actually do it. But I'm just explaining it in this video. So that's why you want the tankiness. So we're going to build a tempered plate, and we're going to go 2 greater guards and 1 greater health. And if you're going with a tuned barrier, you're going to go with 2 greater barriers, 1 greater health. You do want to focus on health when it comes to Iggy, but you do also want a little bit of guard and barrier. Whichever one comes first depends on what damage you want to prioritize against. If you see the other team has 4 physical damaging opponents and only 1 energy, go with tempered plate first, because more often than not, it's going to help you more, and then go with tuned barrier, and vice versa if the situation is vice versa. So your 4th item is going to be Eldermage Amulet, or depending on how much of a team player you want to be, I like going with Lord's Ward after I set up my first defensive items. This helps ward the jungle. This helps see people that are trying to gank you ahead of time so you don't become easy fodder, because Iggy doesn't have that good of a getaway. Yes, it doesn't give you a speed boost, but more often than not, you can't get away from people like Rampage or Feng Mao or Murdoch who can snipe you across the map, so you do want to be prepared and you do want to keep your distance and set up traps before you get ganked. All that specific stuff can be found in my hero guide video, and you guys can see examples of how to set up turrets in the jungle so you don't get ganked, yada yada yada. Let's move on with the build itself. So the 4th item I would usually go with is Lord's Ward, and then for the 5th item I would go Eldermage Amulet and slot it with 3 health, because like I said, health is crazy. Now for your 6th and final item, I would go with Staff of the Adamant and just put in some damage into here for later game, just to deal a bit more damage, just to be more of a nuisance, because at this point you should have about 4,000 health. Once you slot Staff of the Adamant, you should have 4,100 health if you did everything the same way I did it, which is plenty for Iggy, a good amount for a caster to be tanky, which is kind of crazy to some people, but it does work, trust me. And the Staff of the Adamant, this depends whether you want more health, whether you feel you're just not tanky enough, you can just go with more health, or just stack it with major casts. I usually do major casts just so I do a little bit of damage. Now, if you're super late game, and the game's been going on about for an hour now, and you're kind of getting tired, you feel like your Lord's Ward aren't going to help you as much, you can trade it in for Circlet of Health, which gives you a nice ability, unique passive. It grants 4.2 health regen to nearby allies, so your allies can stay in the fight as long as you can. Maybe not as long if they're a squishy little sparrow, but it does help a little bit nonetheless, especially if you have other tanks like a Steel or a Rampage. So that's why I like slotting this. I actually don't even slot it, I just use it. I don't upgrade it with anything. I just literally trade in Lord's Ward, which also doesn't have any upgrades for it because it doesn't need one. You don't get any bonuses for upgrading it all the way, so you don't do it. And that's about it. Those are the equipment cards and the upgrades here. I have a couple chronos just in case I want to put it in the Lord's Ward, but really, you don't really need that kind of stuff. Just go with the barriers, the healths, the guards, some major casts just in case, some mana, some healths. You know, just have a good composition of 1-point cards, 2-point cards, and 3-point cards to slot out these equipment items that we've went over. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this build video. If you did, if it helped, please drop a like and comment if you've got to this point in the video. Comment, Iggy is the realest. Just like that, Iggy is the realest. Spelt realist like R-I-L-L-E. I'm just kidding. You could do Iggy is realist. That is actually a pun off of one of her songs. First things first, I'm the realist. I still can't get over it. Just fucking Iggy is that. Okay, I'm done. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, make sure y'all have a wonderful day.